part of the American GDP.
Well, if I were anybody, whether it was Chinese or Japanese or Russian, I would not be buying 30-year U.S. government treasury bonds that are yielding 3.5% or something right now, because the prospects for us to print, we have printed so much money since 2007, it's really unbelievable. The Federal Reserve has tripled what's called the base money, the basic money supply. It's called the monetary base. It's actually gone from about $800 billion to about $3 trillion now. And so almost more than tripled. So we have the basis in place for a more than tripling of the price level right now. We have created the foundation for hyperinflation already, and the baby boomers have yet to retire. So right now, 12% of all the federal spending is being financed, paid for by just printing new dollars. That's what's going on. So we're acting very much like a developing country in terms of our actual finances. And I've been concerned about this and writing about it and speaking about it since the late 80s. And other economists have as well, and also some politicians, but it's getting worse. It's not like anybody is actually looking carefully at these numbers. The politicians are looking at the official debt numbers and not really discussing the magnitude of what's coming.
You know, a lot of people who think like you, who are critical of the current American financial system, have come out in the street in the Occupy Wall Street movement, and they've voiced their concerns and their protests. Do you think a movement like this is actually capable or able to solve real issues, or is it just a red herring?
Well, Occupy Wall Street was concerned about inequality, and they were concerned about what Wall Street was actually doing. And I think we need to radically change our financial system, because we have two big problems, and this is true in every country, including Russia. The traditional banking system, the model is one of very high leverage. Banks borrow a lot of money, promise to repay, and then there's opacity. They take the money and they do something with it, but they don't tell you what they're doing with it. So people get very concerned at some points about whether the banks actually can repay. And then you can have runs on the bank just overnight. So it's a very unstable situation when you promise people things and then you don't show what you're doing with their money. And that's what happened with Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns and Merrill Lynch and all these companies that went under one after the other. Everybody started worrying because they couldn't see the assets. So what we need to do is get rid of this faith-based banking. We need to have no leverage, and we have to have transparency. The government has to disclose what the assets are. The government has to do verification and disclosure. We should have the government agency verify that somebody's mortgage is actually a reasonable mortgage, that that person has a job, that person has an income, that person's house, which is collateral to the mortgage, actually has this value. So we should not have any liar loans. And then we should also have all the banks become what are called mutual funds, which just sell shares to these funds. So they take in all the money on an equity basis. They don't borrow money. They just sell shares of stock. The money comes in, and then they buy these disclosed assets, the mortgages, for example. And then if you have equity-based finance, then if the mortgages don't work out, somebody doesn't repay, the shareholders take a loss, but the financial intermediary, which is a mutual fund, never fails. It never goes bankrupt. So you have a banking system that can never fail if it's made out of equity-financed mutual funds who are buying transparent, fully disclosed assets. That's what we need. And that's what the protesters on Wall Street didn't know what they wanted, but this is really what they need, what they wanted. Now, what we need is also protesters among the young about their fiscal treatment. That's a different thing.
That's the thing, the fiscal cliff and the possibility of America defaulting that we hear